Hello YouTube, this is Steve with Vast Motorsports. Today I'm going to do a little video to show you how to correctly fix your water leak. If your freshwater tank, when you're hooked up to city water, if the freshwater tank is trying to overflow onto the ground, then you have a bad check valve in your 12 volt pump. And so some people, there's videos on there, you might get lucky and do like I did. This was before I even watched the videos. I just wanted to go on and see what was going on. But common sense would tell me go ahead and turn off the outside city water, go inside and release the faucet, let the pressure off. Then turn on the 12 volt pump, run it for a minute just to get the little check valve moving and operational. And then you turn it off, the 12 volt pump and your faucet, come outside, turn your city water back on and see if that reset the little plunger that's in there. And you might get lucky, it may reset it, but most of the time you've already got an issue going on there and it will wind up doing it again. Same as mine. I thought it was fixed for a few minutes. 30 minutes later I come out, look, and it's sitting there pouring on the ground again. And I mean, mine was leaking pretty doggone bad to where even the neighbor came over to ask me what was leaking because you could hear it sitting there leaking on the bricks. And he even said he's seen the video where, because he had that issue before and somebody said you run the hot water through the pump, the 12 volt pump. But see, the problem is when you flip on the 12 volt pump, you turn on your hot water, the hot water's not even going through the pump or whatever, or touching that valve. The 12 volt pump's just picking up the water from the freshwater tank, pushing it through the cold line or the hot water heater, whichever one is opened up and least resistance. So that's really not doing anything thinking you're running hot water through it, because you're really not. So anyway, this video will show you the correct way. Just take the time to go ahead and fix it and be done with it, and then you won't have to worry about it anymore. And if you like this kind of content, if you don't mind, hit the like and subscribe, and that way you can keep up with our future videos and check out even some of our past videos. You might learn something, who knows. So this little video is going to be on the your freshwater tank if it's overflowing onto the ground when you're hooked up to your city water. And what's happening is your onboard pump has a regulator and it's for pressure, and then it's also got a check valve built in to keep that pressure from your city water pushing back through and filling up your freshwater tank. And so what I did is I took mine apart. You'll have some kind of shield or something. I had a little piece of the wall like that. I just took it out of the way so I could get to the pump. My pump's mounted right here on the ground, on the floor, and I've got it taken apart. It's a little 4-chamber. And then this is your front case, and you'll see it when it's together in a minute, but you've got a little spring-loaded, this is the plunger that goes in. It's sitting on the end of the spring here, and this assembly will flip over and get screwed down right here, and then your pressure switch is on the outside here for the regulator. So this little plunger has an O-ring on it, and so I went ahead and took the other O-ring off. I couldn't see anything physically damaged with it, but inside here, I don't think you can really see it. The way it's designed, can't really see, but it's just got like a little ramped section in there. It's at an angle, the way it's cut around it, so the plunger just kind of goes down, and the O-ring is the only thing really making contact to the surface there. So I went and picked up a couple O-rings over at the local Ace, and that was the one to come off. Like I said, you can't see anything physically wrong, but what I did was I bought one just a tiny bit fatter, and you can hardly even tell. It's actually designed to fit outside that groove, so the rubber is what's making contact inside there. So anyway, every time you turn the pump on and off, that little valve is opening, and it just might not set back quite straight. This would be the side you see, and of course the spring has to push it back nice and straight every time, and so it may not seat exactly correct, and that could be what you're experiencing as a leak. So I'm going to try to repair this one. Let's see if it works. Okay, so I did realize when I put the top cap on, it'll kind of stick and stay there for a second. I'm holding with my fingers. But this plunger had a stem on the back of it, and then the cap has like a tube on it, and this goes inside it, and that's what's keeping it straight, and so it'll line up each time. It does not open very far to let the water pass. It's not opening far at all, so it will come back and shut every time. The spring feels, it's not very strong. Actually, I think I'll take and stretch that spring just a hair, because that's not, I just want to make sure that it's going to seat good. Which I guess, if you're already, this is the flow going in an RV, if you don't have any leaks and the pump is cut off at 45 pound, then you're going to have a little back pressure holding that plunger shut. But let's experiment and see what happens. Now I just pretty much lined everything back up, and I put it together and just put my screws in. It says self-explanatory. You can take care of that. Next, I'm going to put the little regulator back on, and it's got a nipple right here and only the one hole, so it'll pretty much only go on the one way. And then you've got one long screw, which is going to be for the part that's bridged. I can put the phone down. So I got everything tight there. I didn't even undo the wires. Hook my hoses back up. Make sure they're just snug. I could undo them by hand, so I'm just going back hand tight. And the canister, there's a little screen in here, filter, and when it was off, I was going to go ahead and clean it, and honestly, you can't even tell it's been used. So let me get these lines tightened down and turn on the pump. And that's the pump when it's all together. So, you know, mine is under in the cargo area here, but you know, I've seen this smaller, that's because this is a fifth wheel, and it's just the way it's set up. Woo! But I've seen them where they are inside the camper, maybe in the dinette area or something under the seating, you know, for the dinette. But let me go ahead and get this thing turned on. Check for any leaks. Get the air out of my system here. Make sure nothing leaking in here. Because this is going to have water now. You can hear the air coming through some of the system here. Let's open up the hot water too, because I did have it open a while ago to relieve all the pressure before I went and undid the lines in here. I'll have to go inside and make sure I get it out of all those. Alright. Now see, that was still dripping because I think it's a little residual left in the line. What I'll have to do is come back in a half hour or an hour and see what it's doing. But now I'm going to go ahead and turn this back off and go inside and turn on the pump and see how it does. Alright, so that's running on the pump, which usually has a lot more pressure than that. I wonder if me spreading the spring had anything to do with that, because I did stretch it just a hair. There it goes. It's getting air out of the system. But it is just a 12-volt pump anyway, so it's not going to go too crazy. But it is working. I'll leave that on and go out and check and see what it's doing out. Yeah, because that's the 12-volt pump, and it's doing awful good in here. So it's definitely working. So now I'm going to flip the water pump off. Let's go outside and turn on the fresh water. City side. Alright, so city water's on. Make sure I got the air all out. And I don't see any leaks in here on it, so we are good there. Now the big thing is since the city water is hooked back up and it's got pressure going in, is it bypassing that little valve and filling my freshwater tank. So as of right now, she's almost done dripping, but like I said, I think it's just residual. So in 30 minutes I'll know. Actually, probably in 10 minutes I would know, because it was leaking pretty doggone bad. So that could be a repair for you, instead of buying a new pump or putting a check valve in line. And as you can see today, there is absolutely no water dripping because my plunger is fixed the correct way on the little check valve that's built into the pump. So do yourself a favor, fix it correctly the first time, and then you're good to go. So we shouldn't be having that issue again, hopefully for a very long time, if we ever do. But yes, this thing was leaking so bad. I mean, there was a complete puddle running off, and it was coming out. You could actually hear it pouring out and hitting the ground.